welcome to Friday Nights with Emma. How is everybody? Hope everybody is well. As you can see, we've already got a helper tonight. The link's here. Monty's back. He's just laying in a minute. I tried to bring him over, but he'll come at some point. But yeah, he's feeling much better. Thanks for all the well wishes for Monty. Yeah, so he's home now. Less drama, so much better. Got the gin and tonic tonight. Needed it tonight, I have to admit. It's been quite a week. So I hope everybody's well. Just let you have a couple of minutes to join. Give us a little thumbs up or a heart to let us know you're there.
Joan, your mum.
Hi Joan. Hello Mum.
Terry, Laurie.
Hi Terry.
Sharon.
Hi Laurie. Hi Sharon.
Sandy.
Hi Sandy.
Cheryl.
Hi Cheryl. Oh yeah, no, he's alright. Michael was saying Link wants in the kitchen.
Tina.
He's fine. Hi Tina. Right, well,
Susan.
Oh, hi Susan.
Lorraine. Annette.
Sorry. Hi Lorraine. Hi Annette.
Sharon.
Hi Sharon. Hello. So as promised.
Annette.
Hi Annette. I'm going to finish
Dawn.
a little bit. Hi Dawn. Oh, hi Dawn. I'll see you tomorrow because I'll bring your fabrics over. I didn't bring them today, but I'll bring them tomorrow.
Diamond and Judith.
Hi Shirley. Hi Judith. So I'm going to show the next step of the raw edge applique.
Diana.
Hawaiian.
Mandy.
Hi Diana. Hi
Christine.
Mandy. Hi Christine.
Linda.
Hi Linda. So yes, it is the wrong way, but I'm not OCD about it. It's not going to bother me. But if it does bother you,
Barbara.
Oh, hi Barbara. I did my E. See Barbara?
Carol.
I did my E. I think it looks like an E.
Caroline.
Hi Carol. Hi Caroline. Yes.
Christine.
Hi Christine. So, let me show you this one. This is what I'm going to do later.
Lorraine.
Hi Lorraine.
And Lorraine with 2 R's.
Oh, hi Lorraine and Lorraine. Lorraine.
Anne.
Anne?
Anne.
Oh, hi Anne.
Karen.
Hi Karen.
Judith.
Hi Judith.
Sandra.
Hi Sandra. Right, so those of you who've got the patterns, if having it going the wrong way bothers you, and with the machine that will bother a lot of people, instead of tracing it on the front,
Belinda.
pattern on with your bundle web, just reverse it. What I did today to reverse it was I stuck it on the window. You can kind of see through it if you put it on a window. You can trace it around, or you can put it on a window and actually mark it where you want to. And remember, you have to mark the dashed lines, not the solid lines.
Sue.
Hi, Sue. Ooh, warm all of a sudden. Anyway, let's get cracking because I definitely want to show you how to do the needle turn. But this is going to be the raw edge. Ooh. So what have I done so far? I've layered it up. So I've just used a scrap piece of, this is 80-20, 80% cotton, 20% polyester wadding. Now remember, when you layer up, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but dimples up, pimples down. And in real life, you'll be able to see that the way that the wadding is made, it's basically lots of needles like this, punching through to felt it. So the needles come from this side to the other side, so you automatically have a hole on this side, or dimple, and it's more pimply on this side, more fuzzy. So you want the pimple fuzzy side down, and the reason for that is because it can beard, so that's when you see some of the wadding comes through when you're quilting it. And if it does happen, which it probably won't this way, but because your needle goes down this way, it prevents that from happening, basically. So I've laid it up. All I've done is pin it. So I finished all of the sticking down last week. I've put pins in. You can use 505 spray as well if you want to. If you use 505 spray, basting spray, you'll need to spray the spray onto the wadding, not onto your fabric. So you want to spray it onto the wadding and then smooth your fabric out so it sticks to it. Otherwise it doesn't stick very well if you spray it onto the fabric and then try it the opposite way.
Caroline says the video seems not to be working. All I have is the sound. On my end, it's saying the video is working.
Oh, yes, please.
So,
if anybody else is having that problem, do let us know, and we might need to restart.
Valerie said, looking forward to this. Received my snowflake pattern. Thank you.
Yay, yay, yay. Perfect. Right. Oh, what I'll show you as well is you can see where I've cut it down on the raw edge. I've got some little threads. That's just from the cutting. It's just where the fabric has frayed a little bit. And so before I stitch it, I've got some really pointy, sharp scissors. I'm just going to snip all those off. So give it a little bit of a haircut, essentially.
Yeah, everybody says it's going through, so I think it might be on her end.
Okay, yeah. What you might want to do is just stop it and then restart it. Or hit refresh if you're watching it on your laptop, or if you're watching it on an iPad or a phone, just close out the Facebook app completely and just restart again. It might rejig it for you.
Jackie's watching.
Oh, hi Jackie. So I already started trimming because I'm going to start stitching here. I'm going to start kind of in the middle and work my way out as much as possible, because I'm in the habit of doing that, to be honest with you. And what that does is, if there's any movement at all, it smooths it out towards the edge rather than working your way inwards. If there's any movement, then you end up with rucks in the middle. So try to work quilting from the inside out. I'm going to start stitching along here. So I'm just trimming this bit up. I want to show you how. You want to trim it before you sew it, because otherwise it'll be a lot harder to get those little niggly bits. Although this is now thoroughly coated in a fine layer of Monty hair.
Yeah. And Karen inquires about Monty. Monty is fine.
He is.
We still have some... We're not out of the woods yet, but he's home, so yes. That's the main thing.
And much better than he was.
Yeah, much better than he was.
Yeah.
Hannelore is watching.
Oh, hi, Loken.
Maria is watching.
Oh, hi, Maria. So I'm going to use the...
And Ross is watching.
Oh, hi, Ross. Blanket stitch on my machine. You can use any stitch that you want. It's up to personal preference, but I tend to use the blanket stitch, which is this one. So it has a straight edge on one side, and then, yeah, blanket stitch. It goes sideways. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the machine. So this is along the edge, and then the needle moves sideways to make my side ones. Now I play around with the width and the length. So this stitch right here, that's what it does out of my machine without changing it. So when I change it to the blanket stitch and I just start stitching, this is what the automatic preset is at. And I find that a bit too wide and too short this way. So I just made it a little bit narrower and a little bit longer, and that was definitely helping. But because I'm going to quilt through all the layers, I just want my stitches to be a little bit bigger. So I have increased the length to 3.5 and the width is 3. But have a play around on some fabric before you start with your buttonhole stitch and see what you find works best for you, or what you find you like better. So play around with the width and the length to get one where you're happy with, and then just make a note of what your length and your width, what you've changed it to if you've changed it. Just that if you do stop and you go back to it a couple of days later, you know where to put it back to, basically. Oh.
Send Jenny and Margaret is watching.
Oh, hi Sandy, hi Jenny, hi Margaret. I've got my walking foot on because I'm going to do quilting. I've got Orifil thread, 50 weight, top and bottom. And I'm going to use this dark grey. I was thinking of doing black, but I think the dark grey, we'll see how it looks. Ooh. I'm just going to, okay. So I'm just orientating myself because I want my straight edge to go along the edge of my black and then my side stitches to go into the black that way rather than going out that way. So if I start...
Your brother is watching.
Oh, hello Simon.
And Lorraine is watching.
Hi Lorraine. So let's see. Oh, that's a good place to start. I'm going to start right at this corner.
Sharon likes your bracelet.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That is a proper Indian, like American Indian.
Native American.
Native American Indian, yes, thank you. Bracelet, silver and turquoise. So I'm just playing around, moving my needle up and down.
Lorraine says the video's blurred on her end. Again, I think you'd refresh it.
Unless our internet is a bit dodgy, but nobody's using internet in the house other than us for the video.
Unless the cats are.
Yeah, no, that's always a possibility.
Sarah, Shirley.
Oh, hi Sarah. My Sarah or Sarah? Sarah Wells.
No. Sarah Wells.
Oh, hi Sarah Wells.
Shirley.
Hi Shirley.
And that also says the video is a bit blurry, so maybe I'm too close. I don't know.
You close?
Well, it's clear on my end. It's just
okay. It might be a bit.
We might be having trouble. Atmospherics, as your mum would say.
Atkins ferrets.
Atmospherics, sorry.
Atkins ferrets. That's my granddad used to say when the telly didn't come in. Atkins ferrets are playing up again. Right. Got it stitched right. Yep. Oh, it moved. Sorry. Good job I checked.
Gail is watching, and Sarah Wells says she's clear, so...
Okay.
Just...
Hit and miss.
Hit and miss today.
Sorry.
And your brother says the video's clear on his side too.
Oh, okay. Right. So when you're stitching, this gets a little bit hypnotic. So you'll see it will tend to start, so it goes forwards, backwards, forwards, sideways, back. That tends to be, I'll double check that's what it is, but that's what the needle, one stitch movement tends to be. So just keep track of that. So it's forwards, backwards, forwards, sideways, back. And that's one stitch. And where that comes in handy to know is where, when you stop, what is the needle going to do next? Is it going to go sideways or is it going to go forwards? So when you get to the corners, when you do a square, it's good to keep track just where you are and maybe stop at the same point every time. If you're going to stop, wait till that needle gets to the point where you know, okay, the next movement it's going to do is going to be forwards or it's going to be sideways, just so that you know what's happening. It's not the end of the world if he doesn't, but it'll help to keep those corners nice and neat, so you don't have stitches which jut out where you don't want them to, especially if you're using a contrasting colour. This bit is slow. It just takes a little bit of time. I think Mum could definitely attest to this. Mum did it this way with her. She did the dog. But it's still quicker than doing it by hand. I will say that. I'm just following the curve, and so I'm just making sure my needle is running along the edge of my black sewing machine. Speed up a little bit. And I'm just turning it, stopping. There, I'll stop there. And then I'll just pivot it a little bit to move it along before I start again. There we go. Now if you're going around a corner, oh, there's the other thing to say. I think it will automatically stop in the needle down position when you're using this stitch. But if it's not on your machine, then and you've got the needle down function, do make sure that you use it so it stops in the needle down, so that when you stop and you need to pivot, it'll be easy. You won't lose your spot, basically. I'll just do a little bit more and then I'll stop so that you can see what it's going to look like basically. I'm going to stop there. Now if your machine has the lock stitch function, I would do a lock stitch here because I'm going to stop. I'm just going to do a little back stitch. There we go. Leave that up. I'm going to leave my tails long rather than cutting them off short, because I want the option of being able to sew that through to make sure that it's nice and secure. I don't have any loose threads, so I'll probably sew that through. There we go. Bit rustic looking, I will admit, because the way my machine, when I've turned it, some of them are a bit closer than the other. So if that bothers you, just play around with your machine and get to know it before you start it. I don't mind that. I quite like that. That looks a little bit more homespun to me. Or if you use a black thread on this, or a thread that matches where you're stitching, your stitches will be a lot less visible. Obviously, because I've used the dark grey, you can see them against the black. But yeah, I'm quite chuffed with that. So what I'll do when I finish this is I'll just continue sewing around all the edge of my black bits everywhere, and trimming obviously before I start, making sure all my loose threads are taken up. And then it's quilted. See, it's quilted all, and the applique done all in one. So that's a very quick way of doing a nice little wall hanging. Yeah, that will be on my sewing room wall at some point. So that's that method. If you've got any questions, fire away. So I'm going to put my sewing machine away for now. I'm going to put this one away for now. And this is what I was working on today, is the sailboats.
Susan is watching.
Oh, hi Susan. So I'll show you what I did. There was quite a bit of prep on this one because I want to show you the sewing rather than the cutting out, which is what I did mostly last week.
Mandy says it looks fab. How big is it?
Thank you. It is. They are all the same size, all 24 inches by 36 inches. Now some of them are portrait, or like the sewing machine is landscape, but they all are the same size. Oh, there we go. So if you want one or the other, what I'll probably do is I'll pick a spot somewhere in the house and rotate them. So I'll have my Halloween one up at some point, and then my sailboats, and yeah, I'll probably do an autumn one, spring one. Oh, the garden wreath. Dawn said a garden wreath. That would be a nice one, so that you can mix them up a little bit. So you can rotate them once a month or once every season or so.
Laurie says it looks great.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Thanks, Laurie. Right, let me show you what I've done here. So I traced it all out to the bonder web, just like I did for the sewing machine, except instead of sticking it down and then cutting it, sticking it down onto the fabric and then cutting it out, I cut out my bonder web before I stuck it down. So I traced it all out in reverse because I wanted to keep it looking like this. This is on the foreground, so I stuck it onto the foreground. So I've kept all the A bits, which are in your pattern, and I've cut away all of the B bits because that's going to be my background that shows up on the back. So you do that and then you stick it all down, and then I started to cut because I want some seam allowance on my fabric, so I'm going to press it over. So you just cut, see I've cut right here as well. There are some bits that are a little bit more scant than others. So the instructions, I think it tells you about 1/8 of an inch. So you don't want it any less than that, but it is a little bit easier if you do it a little bit bigger. That's why I've left it a bit big on some of these areas. And then you stick it down, leave the paper on, and then what I like to do is I prepare all of the edges. Where's my iron? Prepare all of my turned over edges sort of first, so that they are kind of going where they need to. In the corners, if you've got corners, will cut the fabric all the way up to the paper, to the bonder web, so it goes over. Just like that. Now I think that there's enough bias. There's a little bit of a concave edge here, but there's enough of bias in the fabric that I don't have to snip it too much. But in fact, I won't snip it. I'll just press it over, and that little bit of stretch in the bias will keep it over. Like that. Now I've got some best press. You can use starch or best press. Keep your seams where you want them to be. Oh, where's my jack?
Judy says she's looking forward to receiving her black star fabric and bundle it.
Yep. In the mail today. So you should have it Monday at the latest. There we go. So I just do that all the way around. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Tucking that over. Like that. Right, let me find another bit. Let's do this curve. So I'll show you a trick on the curves. This is a little bit of a time-consuming bit, but it does make it easier to treat your seams before you start stitching, basically, and put two bits together.
Amanda is watching.
Oh, hi, Amanda. Right, so I'll leave that there. So what I want, trim this down a bit more. It's a bit fat. So again,
Laurie says you started a trend with your jack.
Oh.
I think that on Facebook there are
Yes.
a handful of us getting one.
Oh, good.
Love mine, easy to hold. Anne is watching.
Hi, Anne. Yeah, I really like them. So I'm cutting that all the way to the corner. So I'll have a nice corner there. And then this rounded part here, if you just press that over, you can see it's a little bit tricky. You might end up with a curve that has straight bits in it and points. To avoid that, I'm just going to trim him down a little bit more as well, right there, I think. And this will work with any applique curve that you want to do. So let me get my thread. I've just got some thread. Fine thread is good, let's see, cotton rather than polyester, because you do want to put a little knot in the end, and I find polyester is a little bit hard to knot. There we go. Just going to put a knot in it. And then what I'm going to do is all the way around this curve, I'm just going to do a running stitch in the seam allowance. And I would normally be using a thimble for this, but mine doesn't really work with these nails, so I'm going to have to find a new one that works around that.
Diana says she's definitely getting a jack for her birthday.
Oh,
Can't
lovely.
wait.
Well, I found another company that does them as well. I'll let you know when mine comes. That is more acrylic than wood, but it is a pretty one. So if and when that arrives, I'll let you know. But yeah, you can see I've already got, these aren't the ones that I had, but these are two. This was my first one. It's probably my favourite. This one, I'm still deciding. I think he needs some colour because he's just plain wood. There's nothing on him, so you need some stain. You can't have too many jacks.
But you only could use one at a time.
Yeah, but there's never one where I need it. So if I have lots, then I'm always going to find one somewhere. You know me. Right, I'm pushing that up on the other side. Oop, untangle that. And then, if I lay it down like that, you might be able to see. Just going to pull on that. And pulling on that will gather it all up into a nice curve. Just like that. Where's my iron? I'm pressing down. Because the fact the paper is still on, it gives it a little bit of something to work against, like a little bit of a template to work against. There you can see, got a nice round. I've got a couple of points there, but better than if I had not done that at all. And then when you're sewing around, you can pull those in a little bit as well. But I do that to all my curves.
Ian is watching.
Oh, hi Ian.
And Jackie says, your jacks are like my specs,
Oh,
strategically
yes.
placed around the house.
Exactly. See, Jackie knows what I'm on about. Right. So I will continue all the way around doing that.
Christine says she has 6 jacks. There's never one where I need it. And Debbie is watching.
So I'm going to start here, I think. So this is a curve, concave for that. It's going to be a little bit difficult. It stretches it a little bit too much on the bias, especially around here. This I can get away with. So here I'm just going to snip it in, maybe leave about a couple of millimeters between your paper and your end of your snip.
Wendy is watching.
Hi Wendy. Just going to take that corner off because I don't want too much bulk there. Cut that into the corner. Turn that over like that. Yeah, I'll do the same here. And then I'll start sewing this part. Let's make a little bit there.
Terry is watching.
Right, now I would do all of my seams before I started on to the next bit, but because I want to show you the stitching down part, I'm going to just do this corner. So who you said he was watching?
Terry.
Oh, hi Terry. trim that over there as well.
Caroline asked, could you cut into the curve and then press it down?
Yes. Yes, this is what I've just, if that's what you're at. Yeah, I trim into the seam allowance first and then I press it over, basically. And jacks come in handy here too, because you can, oh, I get the right one, kind of holds them in place. Kind of saves your fingers. There. There. Okay. Now I'm going to carefully take the paper off this corner. Maybe. Let's jack. When you're teasing the paper up, you want to make sure you're getting just the paper, not the sticky underneath.
Caroline says instead of gathering.
Oh, you can, but I find that a bit more fiddly. It's entirely, you know, my motto. There's no right or wrong way. So I would try it both ways. Whichever way makes the most sense to you, whichever way you find easiest, go with that one, basically. There's no right or wrong way. You know me. It's whatever works that you find that works. So, move this aside. Do a jump. Oh, this is my background fabric. So this was my background fabric. Now, because this was the lighter fabric, what I did on this, and you can see, and I would use, don't use a friction pen for this, use a water-soluble marking pencil, which is what I've done. I've done it in yellow. You can use any colour that you've got. But what I did was, once I traced the back of my pattern on my Bonder web, I then turned my pattern around on my window so that it was facing the right way, and then I layered my light fabric over it so I could actually trace the pattern onto the fabric. Now, if you are, so I'm doing the dark foreground and then the light background. If you're doing the opposite, a light foreground and a dark background, I would reverse what I've done. So I would do the Bonder web on the dark of the back and then trace your A's basically on the light foreground. So you just need to reverse it. The only reason being is it's really hard to trace through a dark fabric. You won't be able to see the pattern through it to trace it. So whichever your lighter fabric is, that is the one that you're going to mark your design on. And that is just to ensure that you're stitching where you need to stitch, basically. So I'm going to start in this corner.
Karen says this is definitely on my to-do list for next week.
Oh, yeah.
I need the Halloween quilt in my life.
Oh, yes.
And Karen also likes the background fabric.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this is a Bernatex's ombre, I think, or what is it? I can't remember. It's got, maybe has a name on it. Let's see what it says. No, it's Bernatex. Bernatex Essentials. I think it's the pastel rainbow. There's a bright one as well, which is the same colours but in much vivid colours. Yeah, I thought, oh, which is the other thing I was going to tell you, I did. So when I traced my design onto this fabric, I actually fussed around with where some of the colours were going to fall. So I originally had it so the design was a little bit higher up, but I kind of liked it where the bit at the bottom, the watery bit at the bottom, I liked how that fell onto the blue. So I just moved it up a little bit, or moved it down a little bit rather, so that my water will be in the blue, and then I'll have a bit more sunset up the top. Okay, so this is my corner that I'm going to start with. I'm just going to line it up for now, but I will iron it down. So I've got my tin. Just want to match up. So I've got that corner that matches that corner. Trying to get my quilt underneath. And that's there. And then this goes is the top of the lighthouse, over the top of the lighthouse. So you just want to line up your lines, your fabric with the lines that you've got on your, like that. Pretty much as best you can. It's a little bit trickier doing it piecemeal. If I was doing it all around, I would pin it all down and press it. Yeah, that's right. Bring that out there. Happy with that bit. Now the thing I like about Bondaweb is that it's forgiving. So it will stick, but it is removable. I mean, it's not removable as in you can take it apart, or yeah, you can take it apart. Not removable as in you can take it off. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well. But you can see it's sticking down, but you can actually reposition it. That's the word I wanted to look for. Reposition it if you need to. So, there's my needle. I'm going to use the same thread to start this. Now this bit you can either do, I'm going to use this thread so you can see what I'm doing, but I would normally use either a dark blue thread that matches this. Now this fabric, this dark blue fabric, is a Painter's Palette solid, and if you go onto the Painter's Palette website, you can actually see which colours match up with which Aurifil threads, because they're the same colours. So I would use an Aurifil thread that matches this midnight, and the very dark blue matches the midnight. Or I would use a polyester thread in a neutral colour. One, because it's very fine and it rather disappears, and two, because it's quite strong.
Our Natalie is watching.
Oh, hi Natalie.
And Sue is watching.
Oh, hi Sue. Now this is you aren't going to do, you're just going to stitch the top and the bottom together. This isn't quilting it all the way through. It's just applying the applique. So I'm just getting myself positioned so you can see what I'm doing. I'll start here, but really I should start down there. So all I've done is I've put a knot in the bottom of my thread. I've just gone straight through the back and into the blue a little bit, and then I just go straight down back into, I'm doing straight stitches basically, kind of like a ladder stitch. And then I've got maybe, what is that, about 1/4 of an inch. You can do it closer, but I usually do it about 1/4 of an inch apart. I'm just putting up my needle a little bit into the blue. This is where you will see the stitches because it's the colour thread it is. But the goal is to have your stitches as invisible as possible. Oh, not good. caught in needles. And I'm using my mark line to guide me as well, so that I make sure that I'm stitching the fabric in the correct position. If you use a friction pen to mark out your fabric, once you press it down, it's obviously going to disappear. So that is what's known as doing an emma. Don't do an emma. There, so you can see the stitches? Yeah, you can see the stitches. So that's what you're sort of aiming for. Oops. Just like that. I actually like to do applique on a table rather than sitting on a couch or anything like that. This is the one thing that I do like to do, sitting up at a table. Here's a nice little pin. I'll use that. I'm just going to put a pin right in that corner to keep that down in position. There. So I'll show you. Now if you did traditional needle turn, you would have just your raw edges, and then as you go along you actually just turn them under as you go along. I just find this way a little bit easier to keep it a bit more accurate. I'll show you my stitches in the back. I'm giving them a little bit of a tug. I don't want them to be super tight, but I don't want them to be loose either. Now you see I've got this corner right here. Get this Monty hair out of the way. I'm just going to use my needle to push it under, tuck it under there. Don't want any raw edges showing. I'm just going to do a couple of smaller stitches along this bit just to keep that tucked in. So it hasn't gone through the blue on this stitch, but that's okay. I can just go back up and into there, stitch it down. Yeah, and definitely need to get a different thimble. And that's going to go along there. Right, I'm just going to smooth it out for a second. Pull that up through. Now here you can see it's, even though I've cut into the edge, to the corner, it's not making a nice tight corner there. So you just have to press it under with your nail and turn that under there as well. I'm just going to pin it down. I'm going to use my needle to do a little bit of the turn under there, just like I did before. Oh, it's coming threaded. Oh, wrong bit. There we go. So this bit does look a little bit fiddly, but only because I'm just working on the corner. I've got everything else sort of loose and in the way. So when you get to the point of doing this, yours will all be turned under where it needs to be, the backing taken off and pinned in everything pinned in place. Right, so I'm going to tuck that in there, keep that nice and tight.
Valerie says, what lovely long fine needles.
Oh, thank you. I think these are the Roxanne ones I have, which I love for, well, I use for just about everything. I use them for quilting, sewing, all sorts. And they come in that nice little glass vial, which is handy. You get like 50 in a vial, which is very handy for me because I'm always bending them or breaking when I'm quilting or losing them. But then you find those for me, don't you?
Mm.
All I have to do is ask Mikey to come step on something and he finds my needles right away.
Yep. It's my superpower.
It is. Nope. It's got caught again. There we go. So you've got those little straight threads. I'm just tucking them under with my needle. And then when I sew over, the stitch will keep them in place as well. That one, tuck them in. There we go. To get a nice sharp corner. There we go. Is it? Oh, get in there. So I'll show you what I've done there, and I will continue to line up my edge.
Karen says she's glad it's not just her who bends needles.
Oh, yes, actually I had one in my pinkish. I'm like, oh, that's not a good one. I bend them when I quilt. And that will go along here. So I'll do this bit. That'll be my next little bit I need to tuck under and do. So that's the stitching down. I've got some bits which are free floating on this pattern. So let me get these. So my lighthouse is free floating. And I will just trim the same thing around the edge. And I've got some round bits, so I'll probably do the running stitch in the seam allowance around here and here, and knobbly bits, and around here. And then the bit in the middle, I'm just going to, you just cut into each corner, so you can fold it back. Now you've got to be careful on those bits because you've only got, what, just over 1/4 inch here on the edge of your lighthouse to tuck all your seam allowances under, or your raw edges. So I'll probably make that one a little bit narrower so that when I turn it over, you won't see it come through to the other side, basically. This one's a little bit thicker, so, but still, just be careful. You don't want to leave them too long and then you see them coming out the other side. And the same with the outside bit as well. These ones don't matter. You can leave that as long as you want because it's not going to be seen. There's no risk of that. These bits, these free floating bits, if you've got a pattern that has them, there's nothing to say that you couldn't actually cut out your Bonder web and then stick it onto a different colour fabric. It doesn't have to be all the same. So the peacock, for instance, is one that has a lot of free floating bits, and you can make all the feathers different colours if you want. So if you wanted to, you could make that lighthouse white or grey or whatever you wanted it to be, not just blue. And then I've got, that's a bit of a sailboat, and then I've got a piece of water, I think that's the bottom of the sailboat, that's also free floating. and then my 2 sails, which I've cut out, and they're free floating. This one I've pressed under already. And then when you get to the tip here, very sharp points, what you want to do is sort of fold it under, and you might want to trim as needed so that you don't have too much extra bulk under there. So fold it and fold it until you're happy that you've got a nice sharp point on the other side. You may need to do that as you stitch it under rather than getting it perfect, because once you stitch it under you might want to trim off a little bit more. You see where you need to trim it off. Yeah, so that's that really. Oh, am I stuck to the bottom? It's just my pin. Any questions? This is going to be one that's going to be a bit more of a work in progress to get done, but it's very rewarding when it is finished. And if you like hand work, I used to like to take hand piece work or hand applique to quilting groups. Remember those when we used to go to quilting group? Because it's always nice to just be able to sit opposite somebody and work on something rather than being stuck behind a sewing machine all day. You can't really have a conversation. Yeah, I think I'm leave that because I think I want to redo my thread. I think I'm going to do navy blue. I've got some upstairs, some Oracle that matches this. So yeah, so enjoy your Hawaiian, oh yes, Hawaiian patterns. I don't know if you're watching, but the lady who does these is in Oregon. And I don't know if you saw the news. I know there's wildfires in fires in California, but there's in Oregon as well. I have a couple of people that I know that it's smoky. The lady who actually has the patterns, they had to evacuate from where she lives and go somewhere safe. Her house is fine, thankfully. They're safe, thankfully. So yeah, shout out to Connie, who does the patterns, and hope everybody in Oregon and California is safe from all those fires. Thankfully, there wasn't really any major fires when we lived there. There were always forest fires, but nothing that would endanger any towns or anything. So yeah, scary times. So shout out to everybody over there. Yeah. I think that's it for tonight, quilters. If you have any questions, send them over to me. What am I going to do next week? Oh, we'll have to think about it. I did have an idea for next week. I can't remember what it was now. We'll see. We'll see what there is. You may see some more of this done by next week. I don't know.
June asks, have you tried the dragonflies? Would you extend the wings as the paper pattern suggests, or not to do that as the written instructions seem to say?
I'm trying to remember what we did. I don't think we did extend them. So Terry did that dragonflies and Edna did the dragonflies, and I think we just copied them as they were on the pattern. We didn't extend them out. Terry might remember better than I do, because that was one of the questions that came up, and I think we just traced around that was there. Trying to remember. Terry, please, if you're still watching, please let us know. I know that one, I don't have one handy with me. Let me check. If not, if Terry doesn't get back to me, then let me check for next week. I'll look at one of those patterns again, because I do remember it's a little bit funny on one side. So yeah, sorry I don't have your answer right this minute. I'll get back to you, I promise, I will.
That answers for June.
Okay, in June, okay. I'll have a look. I'll look at the pattern and we'll look at it for next week. Yeah, quite excited about this one. This one you picked, isn't it? You wanted the sailboats. Okay. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions for next week or beyond, let me know.
Caroline did ask about piping. Doing maybe piping.
Yes. I haven't forgotten about that, so yes. Oh, yes, that's... Now I remember what I was going to do for next week. Thank you. I was going to do that, and if you're interested, because I might have this one done by next week, adding a sleeve. So I need to add a sleeve to this for hanging. So I'll show you how I do that when I do the binding. I add the sleeve at the same time as I do the binding. Thank you. That was a good reminder. That was what it will be for next week. Okay, so cheers. Thanks for joining us. And have a good weekend. Everybody stay safe. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Not all.